Marvel Rivals, Volume 1, Eternal Night Falls. Bad news, loyal readers. We're bringing you yet another morningless morning edition of the New York's finest newspaper, the Daily Bugle. Why? Because our beloved bureau has been trapped in a state of never-ending night for who knows how long. That's why. As publisher of this peerless periodical, it's up to me, J. Jonah Jameson, to provide you with all the info you need to know how to navigate the perpetual pitch. So here's the scoop. Our intrepid reporters still don't have a solid source willing to admit what caused Manhattan to become an empire of eternal night, but anonymous scientists have independently confirmed that a massive wave of coronal energy washed over our planet shortly before things went dark. Coincidence? I think not. Likely something out of a bad horror movie. Our city streets are now being stalked by vampires. You heard me right. These bloodsuckers have been draining veins faster than my libel lawyers drain my bank account. Our formal friends and neighbors are quickly turning into our worst enemies. Rumor has it Dracula himself has taken up residence in Central Park. Sounds a bit far-fetched to me, but if that Cape Creeper really is organizing an army, we'd all be better off relocating to New Jersey. And those aren't the words this lifelong New Yorker types easily. So where are all the superheroes? Eyewitnesses have identified members of Fantastic Four coming and going regularly from their stronghold in the Baxter Building. As always, the Richards family is on the front lines of the crisis, and we here at the Bugle applaud them for their selfless service. Tony Stark recently issued a press release claiming that he and Reed Richards are collaborating on a number of innovative solutions to restore New York to its former glory as quickly and efficiently as possible. However, my source on the inside suggests that these two big brains may be at odds when it comes to exactly how they plan to end the endless night. Reed wants to save everyone, while Tony is still calculating how many losses are acceptable. My vote goes with Richards. Other heroes have been seen patrolling the streets, rescuing citizens stupid enough to wander beyond the safety of their apartments. Squirrel Girl, Moon Knight, Cloak and Dagger, you name them, they're probably out there risking their lives to save yours. So for once, I'm willing to put aside my personal distaste for the costume crusaders and say thank you, on behalf of the people of New York, to all of those fighting the good fight. Except for one. I have it on very good authority that the less than amazing Spider-Man dodged his duties and swung through a portal to have a spider party with his friends in the far-flung future. I'll see if my favorite photog, Peter Parker, can get me a solid snapshot of that webbed weirdo abandoning his adoring public. That's it for now, fearless readers. We'll have plenty more news for you tomorrow, if tomorrow ever comes. J. Jonah Jameson, Publisher. Daily Bugle. Analysis. Title lock, total disorder. Blood moon over the Big Apple. Manhattan may be the only major metropolitan trapped in the state of eternal night, but the whole world is feeling the impact. According to the Fantastic Four's Reed Richards, the blood moon's stationary position in our planet's orbit has led to dramatic shifts in the Earth's tides, climate, and even magnetic field, pushing communication systems to the brink of collapse. At your service. Welcome to the Baxter Building. I am a humanoid experiment robot B-type, integrated electronics, but you can call me Herbie. I understand that you must have an urgent matter that requires immediate attention if you were willing to brave the streets of New York to seek out the Fantastic Four's assistance. Unfortunately, all our personnel are momentarily occupied dealing with other crises. Dr. Reed Richards, designate Mr. Fantastic, in his laboratory working on the prototype of the time-stream reintegration device with the help of Tony Stark, designate Iron Man. If the device functions as planned, it could theoretically undo the damage caused to the multiverse by the time-stream entanglement. There is even hope that it will break the curse that has locked New York City in the state of perpetual night. However, despite his ability to elongate his physical form, I fear Dr. Richards may finally be stretching himself too thin of late. Susan Richards, designate Invisible Woman, is currently on Renaissance mission in Central Park, seeking out information on the organizational structure of the vampire army that has invaded the island of Manhattan during this period of prolonged darkness. Her unparalleled stealth abilities have allowed her to gather critical intel on our newest foes, putting her directly in the face of grave danger far more frequently than the rest of her family would like. Her brother, Jonathan Storm, designate Human Torch, is on the patrol with Spider-Man, identity classified, rescuing civilians who have fallen into peril and recruiting other heroes who have yet to join our cause. Now that the sun no longer rises, Johnny's flames have made him the center of attention wherever he goes, exactly as he has always hoped to be. He has become a beacon of hope to many in these dark times, and a constant warning to any creatures of the night who might dare oppose him. Benjamin Grimm, designate the Thing, is on a supply run in Lower Manhattan. His expert piloting skills have recently proven nearly as useful as his super strength and rock-hard skin. He has managed to single-handedly save hundreds of lives while retrieving vital equipment and valuable samples, including rare chronovium crystals for Dr. Richards to analyze. With all 4 members of the Fantastic Four indisposed, that leaves me to run daily operations here at the Baxter Building. While I wish I could offer to support you in the field, I am afraid that the few times I have ventured beyond these walls have not gone as smoothly as hoped. Unless Dr. Richards upgrades my offensive capabilities or identifies a mission with objectives that only I can complete, I do believe it would be best for us both to remain within the safety of these walls until a qualified individual becomes available to assist you. Thank you for your patience. Please take a seat in our lobby with the other civilians who have come to seek our aid. You are currently number 1961 on the waitlist. Thicker than blood. Tell me, why have you come here? You are a long way from Latveria. I've brought you a gift from one king to another, a tribute befitting the Lord of the Vampires. A gift from Victor Von Doom. Ha! Do you think me a fool? Another one of your era's pathetic supervillains whose loyalty can be purchased with mere baubles. I am Dracula. I have reigned over the night for centuries. And with this crystal, perhaps that reign could become permanent, as could the night itself. Ah, now you've piqued my curiosity, Masked One. Do tell me more. What you hold in your hand is called chronovium. It was born from an experiment of mine that caused the very fabric of time and space to unravel and reweave itself in unexpected ways. As the chronal energy released in the process stabilized once again, it took this crystalline form. Shards of pure time? Fascinating. Not as fascinating as what could be achieved with this gem by one such as yourself. I have studied both the scientific data and the ancient texts. If my theory is correct, a single drop of blood from an immortal being such as yourself could unlock the vast power held within this crystal. You could gain complete control over time in a limited area. Imagine a modern metropolis locked in a state of unending darkness becoming a permanent feeding ground for your minions, an empire of eternal night where you rule supreme. How lovely that would be if it were true. But I've never been given reason to trust your words before, Doom. Why would I begin now? Because we both have much to gain from this arrangement. If you were to choose the New York City as your new domain, your legion of followers would keep the so-called heroes who dwell there fully occupied. It would allow us both the freedom to pursue our greater goals. What greater goal is there than eternal night? An existence where your people can walk in the daylight without any fear or harm. And with the proper spell, pulled from the pages of the Darkhold and enhanced by the power of this crystal, I believe that dream could become reality. The vampiric verses? Indeed. I am not naive, Victor. There is something more you are not yet revealing to me. Doom never reveals all, but I promise you, on the soul of my mother, this is not an act of deception. What I have offered you will come to pass should you choose it. And all it takes is one drop of your blood. You say, just one drop. I do believe I can spare that much. After all, the streets of New York will be running red with it soon enough. Bogey! The Tomb of Dracula. War of Central Park. The complete set. The doctor's out of his mind. Renowned surgeon and rumored sorcerer Stephen Strange mysteriously disappeared just before the city was plunged into darkness. Now New Yorkers are outraged after discovering an offensive item on sale in the gift shop of his Sanctum Sanctorum on Bleecker Street. A vampire-themed board game that some fear may be linked to the city's recent influx of bloodthirsty monsters roaming the streets. Ancient game. Ever since I first started hanging around with my pal Stephen Strange, he's always told me the same thing. Bats, he says. Being the sorcerer supreme of his dimension means that I do not have the time for games. But I guess that was just something he made up to get out of playing fetch with yours truly. Because apparently, when there's a high-stake game to be played for the fate of all reality, the doctor's all in. See, a while back, we got paid a visit by another so-called doctor of what I'm not really sure. This one called himself Doom. He wanted to get his hands on one of the spell books in Strange's library, but this tome, a book of black magic called the Darkhold, was strictly off limits. Doom wasn't thrilled about the fact that Stephen had a feeling that his fellow doctor was bound to come knocking again. Strange decided that the safest option would be to open a rift between realities and stash the Darkhold where no one would find it ever again. And this is where things get a little kooky, even for a ghost dog like me. Time itself got turned upside down, and Strange ended up lost in the astral plane for a hot minute. While he was there, he searched for the Darkhold to make sure it was still safe, but surprise, it had somehow fallen into the bony hands of an Egyptian moon god by the name of Khonshu. This bird-skulled freak had been protecting travelers in the night for centuries, and he thought the best way to keep doing that would be to use the Darkhold to eliminate the vampires that had overrun New York City. Not a bad plan, honestly, except for the fact that it would hurt thousands of regular folks who had been unwillingly turned to the dark side. Khonshu took Strange captive and tried to make the doc cast that nasty spell for him, but Strange knew he had to shut Khonshu down. Luckily, the Scarlet Witch had reminded Stephen that Khonshu loved a good game of Senet, which is some kind of fancy Egyptian board game, like chess. Even better, Khonshu wasn't particularly great at the game. Seriously, according to legend, he lost a match to some other god named Thoth and forfeited his radiance as a part of a wager. That's the whole reason the moon waxes and wanes. Look it up. Anywho, Strange played the game of his life, securing not only his freedom, but recovering the Darkhold as well. Funny part is, Stephen used a strategy that Doc Doom himself unintentionally tipped him off to, moving his piece of the House of Truth space and drowning Khonshu's in the House of Water, giving the Doc a chance for a major comeback. It was a big gamble, but one that paid off, and now that he's back safe and sound, I haven't even gotten on his case about always turning me down whenever I want to play. The guy did save thousands of innocent lives after all. He deserves a free pass. This time. But you'd better believe it, next time I ask him to toss a ball for me, I ain't taking no for an answer. Haunted. Bad moon, night rising. When danger stalks the night, we have to take heroes where we can find them. Located in a back alley in Greenwich Village, the Midnight Mission has long been rumored to be the base of operations for the vigilante known as Moon Knight. Are the colorful lights emanating from within part of some ancient ritual? The Daily Bugle investigated. Coward! Spider-Man, villain, or vampire? Midtown's been massacred by monsters, so where's the so-called spectacular Spider-Man? This publisher has his suspicions. Unless New York's most dangerous vigilante is off cowering in a corner somewhere, it's more than likely he's joined forces with the creatures of the night. Can you imagine a sinister spider-vamp loyal reader? As if the web-slinging wacko wasn't already bad enough. Renaissance! Central Park goes goth! The exact source of the vampire infestation in New York City remains uncertain, but sources indicate that Dracula himself may be to blame. The rumor has gained traction thanks to a recent addition to the city's skyline, a Gothic castle that appeared in Central Park. This architectural eyesore is believed to be the home base for the growing vampire army. Fall of Midtown. Name's Blade. Folks call me that because of the swords I use to slice the heads off every vampire I cross paths with. To be fair, I use a lot more than swords. Wooden stakes, silver bullets, hell, I'll use a squirt gun full of holy water if that's what it takes to put a finger down for good. I ain't picky. I've been hunting vamps my whole life, sending the undead back to their graves to make the night a safer place for living. It ain't an easy job, but I'm one of the few with the skills or the guts to do it. When I heard that Dracula had some sort of plan brewing, you can bet I jumped on the first red-eye to Transylvania. Turns out, Drac wasn't home. He decided to make New York City his new stomping grounds, and he had a trick up his sleeves that even I didn't see coming. Somehow that freak cast a spell that stopped the sun from rising, trapping Manhattan in a state of non-stop darkness. That made New York City the perfect place for his hungry horde to run wild 24/7. Even worse, it took away my biggest advantage. See, I'm half vampire and half human. Got all the powers of a regular vamp, plus the bonus of being able to walk and hunt in broad daylight. But when the dawn don't ever come, well, it means my usual way of doing things ain't gonna cut it anymore. Found that out the hard way when I got back to New York. I sliced a trail through an army of fangers straight to Central Park. Dracula already had a fortress there, and I was itching to pay him a visit. Turns out, he knew I was coming and wanted to give me a proper welcome. That pasty creep ambushed me, and even though I fought for my life along Spider-Man and the Human Torch, he got the upper hand and hauled me away to a dungeon beneath his castle. Gotta say, it was a smart move on his part. When you know who your biggest threat is, you take them out first, right? That's why I was going after Drac. And the fact that he felt the same way about me is kind of an honor. Or it would be if I weren't shackled to the wall in this rat-infested cesspit. I ain't the only one Dracula needed out of the way either. Apparently there's some Asgardian squirrel named Ratisker whose enchanted horn can end the life of whatever it pierces, no matter how immortal. Drac summoned that magic squirrel to Earth and locked it up in chains too. With his most dangerous foes off the board, Dracula's minions have free reign of the city. Sure, there are other heroes trying to take them down, but the numbers are in Drac's favor. All I can do is wait and hope that someone eventually sets me free. It's gonna be a long night. Midnight missions. Don't know if you can hear me right now, Khonshu. It's never been like you to actually listen to anyone's prayers. But if by some strange chance this is one of the rare moments where you've decided to give a damn, you might as well know what your Moon Knight has been doing in your name. You sent me here to New York City to continue your sworn mission, keeping travelers in the night safe from peril. And that's been no easy task now that the entire city has been overrun by vampires. But luckily, I'm not the only one who's been looking to bust up Dracula's blood-sucking brood. Your knight has formed his own round table. We've been calling ourselves the Eternity Knights. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? It all started out when Iron Man and I came to the mutual realization that some of the other heroes we'd aligned ourselves with wouldn't be willing to get their hands or their costumes dirty. They're all so hung up on the idea that some of these vamps used to be innocent civilians. They aren't willing to accept the notion that every war has casualties. It's like you always taught me, vengeance comes at a steep cost. So does victory. Stark came around to my way of thinking pretty quickly, but not everyone followed suit. The Fantastic Four and that annoying girl with all the squirrels were too squeaky clean to do what needed to be done. So while they're up in their ivory tower trying to figure out ways to save everyone, we're down here on the streets doing the real work, saving as many lives as we can, and ending the ones that can't be saved. Some of my crew are proud to be doing what we do so well. Wolverine and the Winter Soldier wear the ichor like it's a badge of honor. So does the new girl with the giant sword that speaks Japanese. She may be a better hunter than I am, but others don't want their reputations to be tarnished by the blood we're spilling. Good thing Stark has an endless flow of cash and a knack for design. After some recent experiments, he incorporated chronovium into his armor specs, tapping into its ability to rewind time. The results were some epic new suits with a gothic aesthetic that hits all the right notes and faces. We may not be the only ones sporting new threads though. We recently ran across a group of vamps near my hideout in Greenwich Village that were being led by a man in a fancy white armor. And I could have sworn I recognized him from somewhere. Whoever he was, he looked like he was ready to give old Dracula a run for his money when it comes to a leadership over the vampire army. And when he does, I want to be there to watch. In the meantime, I'll be here, keeping the streets safe, doing your dirty work for you, just like the good fist of Khonshu does. As long as the moon stays out, your knight will be at your service, whether you're listening or not. To be continued.